Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we have Greg Moore joining us, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about franchising and how it works. So I've never owned a franchise, nor do I know that much about it. So I think it'll be an interesting episode where I can ask some questions from a beginner's perspective, and we can kind of hear the entire process and how it works. So thanks for joining us, Greg. And just if you want to give everybody a little background on yourself, because you know yourself better than I do, that'd be great.
It's an honor to be here today, Hunter. Thank you for having me. Greg Moore, franchise maven. Basically, I create entrepreneurs through franchising. I got into franchising actually a long time ago when I got my first job at a Taco Bell, and I ended up working for a master franchisor for Taco Bell as I moved up into the Taco Bell world. She owned 50 Taco Bells throughout the Sacramento, California area, and I helped her build up her restaurants. So that was my first foray into franchising. Never heard of the word before in my life, so it was very interesting. I went on to run restaurants for about 15 years as a restaurant manager. Got bored with that, became a microelectronic circuit engineer after going through college and getting a degree in electrical engineering and physics, and then on to getting a master's degree in business. I'm from Motorola Semiconductor. I owned properties, had a couple rental properties. Another engineering friend of mine and myself, we owned storage units together, and then we bought a privately owned dry cleaners together. So we had that, ran those. We both got out of the corporate world after a while, after about 15 years in that particular position. I sold off all my half of everything to him. That privately owned business was okay, but we didn't know anything about dry cleaning. He enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of a pain, but I thought, that franchising thing's a really cool thing. So I got out of the corporate world. I got into a franchise. So I've started a franchise, operated it, ran it, built it up, exited the franchise as well. And while I was doing that, I had a franchise consultant help me. And I thought, I like what that franchise consultant does more than I like doing my franchise, because you got to sit at home and talk to wonderful people all over the world all day, although mostly we work in the United States. And I thought that was a better use of my time. And I was driving around helping business owners with cost-saving things with my franchise. So I got into franchise consulting. I did that about 14 years ago and haven't looked back since.
Very cool. So that's kind of the journey makes sense. A lot of times when I talk to people, it's like they start in one thing and then it progresses, and you start off with working for somebody who had a bunch of franchises and now you're helping other people start them. So it's cool that it flows into that. But with being a consultant, what does that entail? So are you helping people to buy franchises, helping them to turn their businesses into franchises, or all the above? What does it look like for you?
It's actually, Hunter, all of the above, although the turning businesses into franchises is a very small part. I've helped a couple of people do that. Pretty easy process. If your folks out there are looking to, you have a business, you want to turn it into a franchise, fairly simple process, because we have people that will help you do that. So basically, it's about $50,000, and those people will help you create the franchise disclosure documents, all your policies and procedures manuals, and then you determine at that point in time how you want to grow your franchise system. And there's many different ways to do that. But for the most part, what I do is I help people out in the United States, and they come to me. They're looking to get into a franchise. Basically, they're looking to get into their own business, become entrepreneurs, but they just don't know where to start. And that there's no charge from my clients for my services. The franchisors pay us a referral fee. So it's an easy way for us, our people, to get started. And I get to know them, like, where have you been? So what skill sets do you bring to the table? What skill sets do you like using on a regular basis? And then where are you at now? Like, what are you comfortable investing in a franchise? How much time do you have to run a franchise? Do you want to do it full time? Do you want to do it semi-absentee and keep your day job? And then, what are you looking at for success 3, 5, 10 years down the road? Where do you want to be at that point in time? And utilizing all that information. And I have a nice step-by-step process that I take people through, but getting to know them as well as I can, then I can find franchises that are looking for people like them with their skill sets. The franchisors, and we work about 450 different franchises. I already talk with them on a regular basis, so I know who they're looking for in a successful franchisee. So once I know what you're looking for, then it's kind of like Match.com and Realtor.com.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So when I think of franchising, I know it can be anything, but you think of Subway and you think of McDonald's and so like Chick-fil-A, some like those more common ones. What other type of franchises do you work with? Is it mostly food that it ends up being that people will choose, or do you have any other niches that people can venture into?
Interestingly enough, Hunter, in the 14 years I've been doing this, I've only pulled one person into a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if it's because of the fact that I was a restaurant manager for 15 years and They're not on my top of my list, but if that's what my people want, that's what I'll go with. No, from no, food restaurants, not a whole lot. And from our group, and I've worked with the Perfect Franchise Group, and there's about 30 of us in there. We've all been in franchising various forms as franchisees, franchise development people, franchisors for 15 to 30 years. The top of our list is actually service type industry franchises. So think of things like lawn care, pest control, anything that needs done around the house. I think one of the garage remodeling franchises is one of our more popular ones, or general maintenance around there. And you can do these they're called services franchise, and a lot of them are home services, but the home services franchise also go out into commercial. So even though you're doing lawns, you can do residential or commercial. You're doing pest control, residential or commercial. So HVAC, plumbing, electrical, restoration franchises, those are some of our more popular franchises that would put many different people into. Then there's also with golf is coming up. There's actually the golf simulator franchises are becoming very popular as of late. A very simple, easy model to operate because you have either 0 or 1 employees. Because you can just send people the code, they go into the golf simulator anytime, day or night, and they can run that. So that one's becoming more popular. But most of ours popularity runs around essential services. Also, senior care is a very popular one. I put quite a few people into senior care. So when people think it's senior care, a lot of times they think senior home. But for our senior care, ones that are popular, is that you send out caregivers in mom and dad's home to keep them there a while longer so they don't have to go to an assisted living facility. So you just have a small office. And the big difference is that brick and mortar franchises, the ones like the restaurants or the golf simulators, they require a build out. So they're a little bit more on the investment side, maybe $300,000 on up. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum with the service industry franchises, you're looking at around 150, 200,000 plus any equipment you may need. So a lot less of an investment for those. And it doesn't really matter which one you get into as far as how much you can make. But they're going to be pretty similar. They're just different types of businesses depending on what my people like and what they come to me and indicate their preferences for. Nobody really knows what they want when they come to me. They do know what they don't want. That's one question I can ask everybody is, what do you want to stay away from? And I'll get an answer to that, but most people don't know what they want. And that's where us working together and me asking you a bazillion questions, maybe not quite that, but to get to know you, where I can come up with 5 or 10 different opportunities for you.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if that it's a lot of food, but that's cool to hear that there's other options. With some of those, you said some of those can be as cheap as like 100, 150, 200,000 to get into a franchise like that. Are those franchises then, is that where you're going to be doing a lot of the work then yourself, or is that like the service industry, like the lawn care one, are you going to be the person who's mowing a lawn with something like that? Or is that included where the setup costs are that much and then that enables you to hire an employee who's going to be doing that? Like, do most of these franchises, are you working in it or are you hiring somebody for it?
Let's see, short answer to that question, Hunter, it is you're hiring. You're not doing it. The franchisors, what they're looking for there is they're not looking for people who know how to do plumbing or know how to mow or service a lawn. They're looking for somebody who knows how to grow a business. They're looking for business people who are going to work on the business and not in it. They want you to grow it. If you're actually doing the actual work in the business, then you're not going out and bringing in business. Now, you're not necessarily always doing all the work to bring in the business. So with the brick and mortar franchises, it's pretty simple. You build it and they will come. General theme. You get out and do some marketing, bring people in, but they drive by and they see it. With the service industry franchises, your clients don't necessarily know you exist until they need you. So what you want there is you want a great franchise system that's going to drive people to you when that need arises. Now, each franchise is a little bit different, but what you're looking for in one of the great franchises is you're looking for a call center, somebody who fields the call. So when they drive your clients to you, you don't have to be the one that's going to be picking up the phone all the time and giving quotes and answering questions. You'll have a call center that does that for you. And they have various different levels of that. So that's one good way to build business. You're still going out in your community and you're getting to know people, maybe go to a Chamber of Commerce meetings, business networking meetings, any kind of local events that are out there, because you want to be the name and face of that franchise itself. So you'll still be doing some of the work to go out there and meet people. The franchisors have a great marketing system. You're never going to be wondering, what do I do next or what do I do today? You're going to have a mentor with that. They're going to have a systems and processes in place. That's what you pay for when you get into a franchise. And that's why you get into a franchise, because they've already made all the mistakes. So they know what not to do. And even more important, they know what to do that drives people into your business, that helps you build your business. And you're going to have a mentor that's going to help you throughout the entire process to help you build that business.
Interesting. Cool. That makes sense. And is that where a lot of people that get into franchises, do they have experience in other things, like in other franchises before? Or are a lot of people that you work with, are they first-time franchisers?
Almost all of them are first-time franchises. First time even owning their own business for a majority of them. What the general theme is, but not everybody, but what the general theme is that they've run businesses within a business before, basically. So they've been like team leaders, group leaders, managers, CEOs, things like that, where they've already worked with a group of people. Maybe they've done some hiring, firing, which is an added plus on that. Now, not everybody. Some people haven't. We still put them in. I put plenty of engineers like myself as a former engineer. We put plenty of engineers in there who maybe have not had experience with that. But the franchise will train them, and we'll direct them towards a franchise which it has a little bit more intensive training in that area itself. But generally, they've run businesses within businesses before and run teams on that, and they don't have any industry experience for the most part. For the franchise, I put him in. One guy he worked in an Amazon distribution center. Put him into a senior care franchise. Just because he just so happens that, mom and dad needed some care, and he knew a little bit about, the fact that, he had empathy towards the older folks. And he said, that's really something I'd like to do. So you don't have to have direct experience within the industry. By the time you're through exploring franchises with me and going through the process of investigating those franchises, you'll learn enough about the industry for you to decide, if it's right for you, and then have a good feel for it when you get into it.
Yeah. How long does that process take, going through deciding where they want to be at?
2 to 3 months from start to finish. So we'll have a first phone call, find out your motivations, get to know you, let you ask any questions about me and about franchising. And then I send you a questionnaire. You fill out the questionnaire. On our next call, we go through the questionnaire. I have a few more questions for you, and a lot of questions for you, actually. And that helps me narrow down the different franchises that will be a good fit for you on the subsequent call. Then we'll go through a list of 5 or 10 of them, narrow it down to 2 or 3. I send your information out to the franchisor. You have calls with them. Quite a bit of due diligence is involved with that. We have funding partners along the way, CPAs, franchise attorneys, everybody there to help you get to know that what you're getting yourself into and making certain that you're okay with it, and just gathering a lot of information about how the operations work, what your role as a franchisee is, what's the unique value proposition to you from the franchise, what's the unique value proposition to your customers from the franchise. Lots of data to gather, about 2 to 3 months is what it usually takes.
Okay. And that 2 to 3 months, once they've decided, it probably depends on the business, but what's the average before somebody then has set up and hired and then they're fully functioning as a business?
Hunter, with the service industry franchises, within about 60 days, you can be up and running and going. When you're looking at something that requires a build out of brick and mortar, you're looking probably 6 months down the road. The franchisor, in the case with the brick and mortar ones, is they're going to have to find the real estate for you. And they're going to have to do the lease negotiation, and then you do the build out. So you won't be looking for real estate. You don't have to be a good real estate person or a good lease negotiator. With that, the franchises will do that for you, but that will take about 6 months to find the location, get the build out, and they've got all the plans and everything. All you do is pay for it.
Okay, that's cool. So if there's a building, if you need a building for your business, they'll find it, they'll put everything together, and all you have to do is write the check for that.
Exactly right. Simple as that.
Cool. That sounds easy.
It is the easy part, Hunter, on getting to that point. It sounds pretty simple. It sounds pretty fun and easy, but it is still a business, and you do still have to get up in the morning. Franchisor's not going to call you up in the morning and say, "Hey, Greg, get up, time to go do your thing." You do have to be a self-starter. It's a business, so there's a little bit of risk involved. So you got to have some risk tolerance. You reduce that with a great franchise system, but once that franchise gets up and running, it's going to be a little bit of work. You can get into a semi-absentee franchise and maybe put in 10 to 15 hours a week, depending on the franchise system, if you want to run it semi-absentee. But it's still a business. It's still the money you're investing. So it's still a fair amount of work. And that's when the work begins, when the doors open.
Yeah. With funding for businesses like this, can you use something like a small business loan or a business loan of some sort, or does it have to be funded in cash?
Yeah, not usually ever funded in cash. Occasionally I'll have some very well-off people that have a lot of cash laying around, but not too terribly often on that. Most of the time, it's done through a couple different ways. SBA loans are very popular, Small Business Administration. We have funding people, but all they do is fund franchises. So if you've got about a 700 credit score or better, Excuse me, you're pretty well set on that. It'd be interesting that people will tell me that, they're trying to get funding for a business, but the bank or the loan company that was doing was saying, well, you don't have any experience in the industry. So, they said they're having some problems getting a loan for it. And that applies when you're doing a privately owned business. But when you're doing a franchise, that franchise has experience in the industry. So now all the funding partners are looking at is your credit score, because the franchise has got that proven business model and experience in the industry. So they're not worried about that as long as you get a good credit score. So SBA, conventional loans, unsecured loans, HELOCs, home equity lines of credit. And then if you don't want to go into debt, if you don't want to use other people's money, then you can do, and if you have a 401k plan or an IRA plan from a previous employer, you can do what's called a rollover for business, which is what I did to start my business. And you can use your retirement funds to then invest in the franchise system itself. I did that. You create a C corporation to do that, create shares of stock. It sounds complicated, but the people that did it for me made it very simple. And I did not go into debt building up my franchise system. And then at some point in time, you just buy back your shares of stock, put all that money back into your retirement plan, and just switch over to an LLC.
Interesting. Cool. If somebody is going to take a loan out, what's the ratio that they need? Like, are they putting 20% down like you would do with real estate, or what percentage is it that if you're doing like an SBA loan?
Generally, Hunter, we're looking for an SBA loan about 10 to 20%. If you're looking at a service industry franchise, what you can do is...
Hey, hope you're enjoying this episode. I just want to take a minute to tell you about Sell the Earth. Sell the Earth is my land investing program where I teach the exact systems I use to buy and sell land every single day. My team and I complete over 100 land deals a year, so everything you learn comes directly from what's working in my business today and not outdated strategies or theory. One thing that makes Sell the Earth different is it's constantly evolving. Real estate changes, marketing changes, and AI is creating opportunities that didn't exist even a year ago. As our business grows, the program grows with it. We continuously update the training with the newest strategies, AI workflows, automations, and marketing techniques that we're actively using to find more deals and operate more efficiently. When you join, you're not just buying a course. We meet every week on live coaching calls where you can ask questions, review deals, and learn from other investors and myself. If you want more personalized guidance, we also offer one-on-one training to help you overcome roadblocks and accelerate your process. Whether your goal is to close your first land deal, create another stream of income, or build a full-time land investing business, Sell the Earth gives you the systems, support, and community to help get you there. If you'd like to learn more, head over to selltheearth.com. Now, let's get back to the episode.
You can do an SBA Express loan, and that'll be for about $150,000 to $200,000. So you'll put $20,000 down on that, and then they'll drop in their $150,000 to $200,000 into your bank account. When you're getting into the brick and mortar type franchises, then you're looking at probably a 7A loan. And then you're putting in, 10, 20% down, probably more like 20% down. So it gets a little bit more of a down payment when you do a brick and mortar and a bigger build out and they go the 7A route.
Okay. Is there like some sort of net worth requirement that they will have, or liquid cash that they'll have as a requirement to do something like this? Because it sounds like if you could get into it for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for some of the cheaper ones, you probably want to have reserves, right? So do they have reserve requirements as well?
Every single franchise, almost every single franchise, Hunter, you're absolutely correct. They do have a net worth requirement. So one of the things I'll ask people is, what is your net worth? So I can bring you back to the ones that are within your net worth that you qualify for. So the franchisor wants to make certain that you don't run out of money. So they made a determination a while ago that this particular net worth of people, we find that they don't run out of money because they've got the borrowing power in case they need it to do that. So every single one of them will have a net worth requirement on that. Although with some of the lower investment franchises, they don't necessarily have a net worth. There's probably about a handful of those when you're working out of your home. And you don't need maybe a small office or anything like that, where you're just going out and visiting with your clients. You don't need a whole lot of a net worth because there's not a whole lot of investment because most of your time is spent going out and visiting with your clients as opposed to your clients coming to an office or a building.
Interesting. Okay. So when somebody is shopping for a franchise, I'm sure looking at the potential profit is something that I would be interested in. What's like a return that people will target? What's kind of the average What's the target that people look for?
Absolutely, Hunter. So a disclaimer on that. When people are looking at, and when you folks out there, if you decide to look into a franchise, the Federal Trade Commission has very strict rules about me and about franchisors giving out earnings, what they call their earnings claims. So when you're looking at a franchise, if the franchisor doesn't have it in their franchise disclosure documents on there, what the earnings are in there, they can't talk about it. They can only talk about what's on the franchise disclosure documents. Since I don't have that information, or since I do have that information, let me rephrase that. Since I don't gather that information, so the Federal Trade Commission says you have to have that information, you have to be the one that gathers it and have that information in your databases to be able to talk about it. Since I don't have that, I'm not allowed to talk about it. Now, if I do, the police aren't going to show up at my door and arrest me for it. It's just that the industry kind of frowns on that. However, when you're looking at a franchise system, the franchisors really want you to make a great living. So most of the franchisors out there are looking for you to make a very good six-figure income on that with one territory. Mm-hmm. So you return, and it'll vary by franchise. You'll get that information before it's all said and done. Most of the franchisors put that in their franchise disclosure documents, and it'll be under earnings claims item number 19 on there. And everybody asks about it, and everybody wants to know. Well, I kind of got an idea of, how much each franchise can do per territory. So when people come to me and say, I'm looking for this kind of an income, I can steer them towards ones that will make them that kind of income. They might need more than one territory to get that kind of income. But it's interesting enough that when people say, I just want ones that make the most money, I'm like, okay, I know which ones make the most money. I see them on a regular basis, the franchise disclosure documents, and I'll present those to them, but I'll still go through the same process. And I'll present a few others to them as well that are more aligned and a better fit for them. And it's just interesting that very few people will actually pick the ones that make the most money. They'll pick the ones that have a better fit because you can always just get more territories in order to make that kind of money that you're looking for. But a good six-figure income is generally what most of the service industry franchises are looking for people to make on that. And everybody's different. Some people, it's interesting that when you talk to franchisees, some of them are just like putting in like 20 or 30 hours a week. And they're like, as long as I make $50,000 or $80,000 a year, as long as I don't have to work, or put in 40, 50 hours a week or whatever to make the money. If I can put in 20 hours a week and make 50 or 8,000, I'm happy. So everybody's a little bit different, but we'll find out. We'll talk to franchisees along the way. And that's where you find out directly is how much can I make? How long is it going to take me to get there? And what do I got to do to get it? And every franchisee asks the same question, Hunter, how much can I make out of this franchise? Everybody wants to know because we've got to feed the family. We've got to pay the bills. So that's where you find out that information. And franchisees are pretty blunt when you talk to them. And we'll make certain you talk to a few of them along the way. They'll lay it out for you. You might catch them all day and you might get an earful, but talk to them what you feel for the business.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. You can't, I understand. You can't just go advertise you're going to make this much because that's when you don't make that much, that's where issues can happen. So
that's why they do that, Hunter, because a long time ago when everything first started, a few of the not so good franchises said, come into this one. This is how much you're going to make. And people weren't always making that, exactly like you said, Hunter. So that's when the Federal Trade Commission stepped in and said, can't do that anymore. Here's a new rule.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a little different with real estate where you can advertise your cap rates and everything, and this is how much you're going to make. But that's when you're dealing with people, I suppose there's just one more complication. So that makes sense. I'm curious because I do real estate. Is there any real estate type businesses that you work with that are like mostly real estate, whether they're like wholesaling type businesses, or I guess you said not senior care, but senior living or anything real estate related?
Yep, sure are. A couple different things we can go on that route. Now, directly related to real estate is We Flip Houses, I think it's called, or something like that. That's a franchise out there that deals directly with flipping homes. On that, you can get into senior living homes if you want and buy the real estate on there. Indirectly with real estate, we have working with real estate people is setting up homes for sale. So getting them prepared for their sale and presenting and doing that. Property management is another one. But directly, I think a direct answer to your question, there's not a whole lot that deals directly with wholesaling real estate. We flip houses, and I think there might be another one that does it. But, Hunter, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. What's some of the more unique businesses that you've come across? Any like kind of weird ones?
Sure. If you've got a strong stomach, crime scene cleanup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
And just micro and the dirty jobs. But you find a dirty job that nobody likes to do, you're going to make a lot of money at it.
Yeah.
And then duty calls. Do you like animals? Do you like the outdoors? Clean up after animals. And people think, okay, I'm going to go, door to door cleaning up, piles of dog poop in people's backyard. Think of things like parks, golf courses, We have all sorts of different critters running around pooping all over the place. Big business. Clean up all that goose poop out on the golf course to make it good.
Yeah.
So great businesses, crime scene cleanup, great business. Not a lot of people want to do that, oddly enough.
Hmm.
But keep in mind that you are not the one as a franchise owner doing it. You're hiring people to do that for you.
Yeah. That's funny. Dirty Jobs, is that something that you like to watch?
Yeah, I like watching that with Micro. It's interesting that those people that'll do those kind of things, they make great money at it because not a whole lot of people are going to go do that. And that's really where the money is. I think restoration services would probably be one of the dirty jobs that are very popular with us as well. We do put a lot of people into restoration franchise and they make really good money on those, fire, water, mold damage, hoarding, things like that. And some of them include what do they call that? Organic cleanup as far as restoration. So organic cleanup just means blood and guts. They include that. And that's a huge industry, really good business.
Yeah. I suppose it's very specialized. So once something's specialized and not as common of a business, you can make more money with it. With some of the people that's worked with you before, do you have any success stories of people who have gone on to franchise multiple businesses or multiple locations? Where they start with one and then they start growing and they do 5 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah, I had a doctor who wanted to provide care for the people who wouldn't necessarily get care, underprivileged type people. So we had the Supercuts, the hair salon. They were selling their corporate locations a little while back, and his goal was to get up to 100 of them. I got him up to I got him up to about 80, and then I ran out. But he had me calling up all my old people that bought 3 or 4 of them at a time and see if he could buy them from them. But it took a couple of years to get him up there, but he got up there to it. And that's a really good way to build up a great asset, which, you should always treat the franchise as an asset, not a job. You treat it like a job, it'll be a job. Treat it like an asset and grow it like an asset. The other one was, I had a couple that came to me and he had a full-time job and he wanted to do something semi-absentee. And she ran their properties and took care of the kids. She took care of the real estate investments that they had. And as we're going through the process, she was there on all our calls and she had a few questions kind of in the background. And he was going to run this semi-absentee while I kept his day job. And it was electrical services franchise. And at the very end, she stood up and she said, "We're not going to run that semi-absentee. I can do that." She learned enough about it where she said, "I can do that." So she got one territory. A few months later, immediately turned around, got another territory, became Rookie of the Year. And then a couple of years later, she got 2 more territories. And her husband had to quit the job because, one, they're making way more than he was making, and she needed help in the franchise itself. So he was able to quit his day job, run the business. Now they got 4 territories and they're running that strong. And then I had another guy in a senior care franchise. And some of these franchises, some of them you talk about, you can run semi-absentee and some of them want you to do it full time. But as we talk about it, and we keep in mind, treat this as an asset, not a job. The business cannot revolve around you. You want to make certain you've got somebody else in there for it so that at any time you can exit or you can just step back and let it run itself. So he had gotten into a senior care franchise that was full-time required to begin with. After 3 years, he came back to me and said, "Everything's running like clockwork. I got managers in place. They don't need me anymore. I'm bored. Let's get me into something else." So I think we got him into a mobility services franchises that were kind of a complement to the senior care business that he was doing on that one. So yeah, that's great. And I've had a couple other people come back to me and say, "I built it up, time to sell it, and let's go on to the next one and find something different to do." So all sorts of wonderful stories.
Yeah, that's cool. With that, I'm curious, that doctor, how does somebody buy that many locations? Is it just because he had a lot of money, or was there some tactic he was using where he was rolling over equity from something, or is it just he had a lot of capital already?
Well, he had a lot of capital already, but then as the business grows, you get more in there, then you can just take out loans out based on the business itself. So basically use other people's money to build up that business on there. So from a monetary standpoint, he did have a lot himself, but he was also taking out loans on the businesses. These were existing businesses or corporate ones. So they already had income coming in. They're already making money day one because they're corporate resales. So they had everybody in place. On the other side of that, how do you build up 100 and be a doctor and have 100 franchises, or in this case, 80, and run them at the same time? So for every 7 locations that he had of Supercuts, he'd bring in a regional manager for it. So he had a manager in place for each salon, and then every 7 of them, he had a regional manager in there. And then after so many regional managers, he had another one that he brought in. So he was only directly dealing with maybe, 3 or 4 people with 80
Okay.
different ones. So it's really not that much work when you think about it, because he's got other people doing everything for him. And for the most part, he used other people's money to bring it in, getting out loans for it with a little bit of his own cash when needed.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was a good guy, very driven, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a little curious about, you said you don't do it too often, but starting a franchise, creating a franchise, what's for the ones that you've worked with or that you know about, what's the requirements to do that? What constitute being a franchise? Like, does it have to be a certain type of business, or do you have to have a certain revenue? What do you have to do to actually start a franchise?
Basically, Hunter, just have to have a business you want to turn into a franchise. Now, to get people interested in the franchise so that you're going to have actually can offer it to people and people are going to be interested in it. One is that one location is good, but if you've already built out 2 or 3 other locations, so you've duplicated it already, that's an added plus. It really helps when you've duplicated and you've had more than one location and you've shown that you can duplicate it. And especially if you can put it into like another city or something within the same city is fine, which most people do. They just have different locations. So that's a good plus when you're doing it. Bringing in, so your net should be somewhere, again, most franchises like to see you bring in a good 6-figure income. So you bringing in a good 6-figure income, 100,000 more, is going to bring more people that are going to be interested in your business to you on that. So more than one location is a really good start. Bringing in more than $100,000 net profit per location. That'll get you a lot of people interested in it if you want to do it. And then the product or service that you provide needs to be able to be used by as many people as possible in as many different cities and states as possible on this. Be kind of
Okay.
universal. Now, it doesn't always work that way. I've heard of, or there is a boat rental franchise out there that you can
Hmm.
run. Now, obviously, that's not going to be available everywhere in the United States because you're out in the middle of a desert, that's not going to work. But you have enough cities and states where you can bring in enough people to do it. So those are the 3 things really that'll really help you build your franchise system a lot quicker. Now we've had franchises come into our group with less than that, with just one location and built it up from there.
Hmm.
But you really have to have something unique and different or a different aspect of what other people are doing that makes you stand out from the crowd if you're going to just start with one location and hope to build it from there.
Okay. And then once you're ready to do that, you said it costs about $50,000 to create a franchise, I guess.
It does. So basically what it's going to happen is that I've got people that'll do it for you and they've got everything in place. $50,000 they provide and they get you ready with the franchise disclosure documents and they go through with you, what is your process so that when you need manuals in place and systems and processes in place so that when somebody comes in and wants to start it, you can show them exactly what needs to be done step by step to build up their business, same with what yours is. So your role is actually going to change as well. So now you've been operations person operating those different locations or that one location. Now you're going to be turning into a mentor for others. You're going to show other people how to do it as well. So that's where you need great, manual system processes. This employee, like in the restaurant industry, when we did it, we had a breakdown of, if we had cooks. So this is the time you prep. We need a prep cook at this time. They're going to take a break. And we need another prep cook at this time. So all those little things, what each employee is going to do, what their roles are going to be. All my people will put
Hmm.
all that in place for you if you need that. Then with the franchise disclosure documents, then their different states have different requirements for those on there. There's registration states, there's non-registration states. So they're going to go through with you and see which states that you want to offer your franchise opportunity. And non-registration states are pretty easy. You just file your franchise disclosure documents with the government. You're good to go on those. There's other states, the registration states, each have a different requirements for you to do it. And they'll help you out with that depending on where you want to offer your franchise is at. There's a couple states that are kind of a challenge. California and Washington are 2 of them that not every franchise will go into because they've got a few more requirements to get involved in. So you don't necessarily have to offer your franchise in every state, because not all of our franchises do.
Hmm.
But that's it as far as then being able to offer your business as a franchise. Well, at that point in time, now you're going to need to determine how am I going to offer it? Am I going to people? So where am I going to get my franchisees from? Is it going to be organic? So people that have already utilized my services or maybe interested in opening up one of these locations themselves, and you're just going to use organic traffic, or are you going to go out and advertise with maybe one of the consultant organizations like I belong to. It will cost you a little bit more money to do that. You grow a little bit quicker. And we also have franchise sales organizations, FSO said, if you want to grow very quickly and you don't mind spending a lot of money, then they will help you grow your system as well. So at that point that you become a franchise, there's many different opportunities to spend as much money as you want to grow as fast as you can, or take it slow and easy and
Yeah.
do it just for a while.
Yeah. What would be one of the goals of going fast? Is it with franchising? Do you most usually take a revenue share? So if the franchisee is making X amount, they're going to take a percentage of that. And then the idea is if you're growing fast, then you'll recoup that over time because you're making back money. Or is it just from the franchisee, like the original sign up fee, that they'd be making their money back?
So two different fees that we're talking about there. What you just mentioned, Hunter, the franchise fee is the one-time fee. It's usually around $50,000. Doesn't matter which franchise, give or take, it's around $50,000. It's a one-time fee. Franchisors do not usually make a whole lot of money off of that itself because they have to use that money then to bring the new franchisees into their system. They need to train them, get them up and running. If they make their money off the royalties, what you're referring to there is money, that's money off the top. Gross revenue will generally be between about.
Quick break for a read from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by DirectREI. Look, if you're a real estate investor, you know leads are the most important part of the business, but finding and following up with those leads is time-consuming and expensive. DirectREI solves that issue. It's an AI acquisitions platform with a built-in CRM, and here's what it actually does for you. It sources the leads straight from the county property records, it skip traces and enriches your data, it writes your sequences and runs your campaigns across email, text, direct mail, and phone, where you can send tens of thousands of outbound messages per month for less than the price of dinner, all from one dashboard. It tracks every channel so you know exactly what's working and what's not, and when a deal comes together, you can send contracts and collect e-signatures right there in the platform. And here's the real kicker. You don't have to run all of that yourself. There's an AI acquisitions manager that's built in that operates the whole thing for you. It finds the leads, it launches the campaigns, it works every channel, and when somebody replies, it drafts the response back in your voice so it actually sounds like you and not a robot. It runs your entire pipeline in the background day and night and only taps you in when there's a deal that's worth your attention. You stay in control, you close the deals, it handles the busy work that's been eating your nights. There's a free plan available, so you're not risking anything to try it. Go to directrei.com, hit try free, and let us start finding you new deals today. That's directrei.com. Now back to the show.
5 and 10%. And that's where franchisors make all their money. And that's also their vested interest in making you as successful as possible, because the more successful you are, more successful they are. So that's where they're going to make their money, and growing it as quickly as possible, they will make more money because I'll be having those royalties coming in quicker. Just red flags to look for is, especially with the brick and mortar ones, if you folks are out there looking at franchises, if they have sold a lot of the brick and mortar franchises, but they haven't built them out yet, which does take a little while, you want to make certain that they have a good ratio of ones open to ones sold. And you want to make certain that they have, if you do grow that fast, and for those folks who are looking to grow that fast, make certain that you have an operations team that can handle that volume of franchisees, and the real estate team to go out there and look for it as well. So it's a couple things to be aware of.
Interesting. So you said yourself you sold your businesses when you got out of them, the franchises that you were in, you sold. How does it work to sell a business like that? Is it the same as just selling any other business, or you'd use like a business broker and list it for sale, or is it a little bit different because you're a part of a franchise?
Pretty similar, Hunter. The only difference being is that when you're going through the due diligence process, when you're looking at your franchise, that process itself is a mutual kind of get to know each other and make certain each person is qualified process on there. So the franchisor is going to be interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. So when you go to sell your business, yes, you can use a business broker. You can do just the same way as you're doing any other business. The thing is that the person that you're bringing in has to be approved by the franchisor. So you can't just sell it to anybody. They still have to go through the same process you do. What you'll do when you go to sell your franchise is you tell the franchisor that you're selling the business. Usually what happens at that point in time, the franchisor is going to tell the other franchisees around you that you're selling your business. Most of the time, another franchisee, especially if you're doing well, making profit, another franchisee close to you is going to take that, going to buy that franchise from you. So we don't get a whole lot of great resales because, one of the franchisees bought them up. But if they don't, then yeah, the same process applies. You can get a business broker to do it. You can put it out on biz buy sell, just with the caveat that that whoever you sell it to has to go through the process with the franchisor to get approved from the franchisor.
Do they have to pay that original franchise fee again if somebody is buying the business from you, or is that already taken care of since you did it the first time?
Generally speaking, yes. The franchisor will still require a franchise fee being paid. It'll vary, though, by franchisors. Some of them may not require as much of a franchise fee. And you, as a franchisee, may have to pay a transfer fee. Again, it's usually not a whole lot, around $5,000 or so for a transfer fee. And the franchisors, some of them may waive the franchise fee for the people that are coming in. On that, it varies. It actually varies quite a bit by franchise, depending how they're going to do that.
Same. Cool. Well, I've learned a lot about franchising. I didn't know too much before, so this gives me a lot better background on it now. If people want to work with you or reach out to you, how should they find you?
Go out to my website. Go out to franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, MAV as in Victor, EN.com. Or do it the old-fashioned way. I'm kind of old-fashioned. Just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
Awesome. Cool. And I forgot to ask originally where you're from. Were you in Tennessee?
No, Licking, Missouri, out in the Ozarks.
You're Missouri. Okay.
Yep. Halfway between Springfield and St. Louis.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And don't forget, you get my book too, if you get a chance. If you want to know about franchising, Wall Street Journal best-selling book. I was kind of surprised it got there. The only Wall Street Journal best-selling book only about franchising. It's out there today. Pick that up on Amazon or just send me your address and I'll send you a copy on that. Or you can go to my website and you can pick up a PDF version of that as well. This will walk you through how to investigate franchises with real-world examples of people that I have worked with as well. Step-by-step process of what you and I will go through. Or you can be a do-it-yourself book too. You go through that if you know what franchise you want already and you don't need my help finding it, then just go through that book and it'll point out all the red flags to look for and who to contact. You can always reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know too much about franchising before, and I think you gave me a really good understanding of it. So yeah, if you want to reach Greg, his website will be linked below, and I'll put his phone number there as well if you want to give him a call. But thanks for coming on, Greg. And yeah, thank you.
It's been an honor. Thank you very much for having me, Hunter.